Rachel, thank you very much for joining us today on the Resonate podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
For anyone who isn't aware of who you are, tell us a little bit more about yourself and that time when you were in Angelica.
So my name is Rachel and I am a musician. When I was younger, I was classically trained on piano and violin, and then started playing drums accidentally because I could get a free lesson at Music Centre. I played guitar, actually. I wanted to play like Slash in Guns N' Roses. So I was, I played a bit of electric guitar. And then these three girls came and knocked on the door, said, would you like to be in our band? And I didn't know who they were, but they were friends. We had a mutual friend that was a previous drummer in the band who I went to school with at the time, and he'd left. And so he'd said, my friend plays drums, which I didn't really play drums at all. Like maybe had 2 lessons. And initially I said no, but Holly persisted. And so eventually I joined the band.
Nice.
And and we were all about 14.
And who else was in the band?
So there's me, Holly, Claire and Bridget.
And so how did you make that transition from joining the band to becoming on stage?
So we made full use of the music co-op. I played my first gig after one practice, not knowing any of the songs and not actually being able to play very well at all. We just carried on from there, rehearsing every week, like at the co-op, and the staff there were fab. They supported us because none of us really knew what we were doing, and we learned loads of covers. I think Holly and Bridget were writing songs from day one, so we're always writing original material because it's like easier to play, isn't it, when you play your own stuff. And the scene in Lancaster was great in the 90s. There was loads of places to gig, and it didn't matter that we were all like 14, 15, so there were loads of places to play. So we played at the Yorkshire House loads. I'd say all the other bands were really supportive. They'd ask us to support them. You could borrow equipment from the co-op. So we'd be dragging like amps and PAs round to go and play at the Farmer's Arms or wherever. All the venues would hire like their function rooms for gigs, and it was okay for like school kids to put on gigs. We did it all ourselves. So a local person offered to manage us for a bit. Ian Marchment, the legend.
Okay, yeah.
He was our first manager. I think the leap was where a band called Feed, some of whom are still playing today. Loz is in Hawkman Dive. So they put on the first free stage at the Dome in Morecambe, which was like a local 3-day festival of local bands. They put that on, and as part of that free festival, they made a CD of all the bands. And so that CD got sent to Radio 1, and Stephen Mack played our song off that, so it got played on Radio 1, which was a very exciting day.
Would you say that was one of the highlights then of being in Angelica?
I think that was like the step from being a local band to getting a bit more national coverage.
Yeah.
And then kind of things went on from there.
So from that point and being on stage and having Radio 1 play, what then was the transition that took you into working with young people?
So we all ended up at school together. We were getting like some decent gigs whilst we were at school, so we devoted quite a lot of our time to rehearsing. We were quite regimented with our rehearsals. We didn't follow the traditional path of going to university. We all took like a year or more than a year out, and we carried on gigging. So we're doing the band, doing tours and recording and everything. And then early 20s, I started volunteering at More Music. Maybe before that, I did the Prince's Trust course, and I did a youth work placement. And previously to that, I'd had my band, and I thought I was going to be a nurse. So I was going very, very much down the kind of science routes, but this changed my perspective, and I really enjoyed the youth work aspect of it. And after forays into nursing, that didn't work. Came back to Lancaster, and I ended up volunteering at More Music because I was in a band. It was suggested I go and volunteer on the band project that I now run. So I went and volunteered on stages, and then I was working with young people, and then I realised that issues come up when you work with young people, and that perhaps I benefit from having some youth work training. So then I went to uni and did youth and community studies, only by the off chance that I worked in the Yorkshire House, my friend came in and said, "Oh, I'm going to go and do this degree." And I went, "Oh, that sounds good. I'll go and do that as well." And I did. And that's changed. That shifted the course of my work. And so ever since then, I've worked at more music and I've developed my kind of music and youth work practice.
That's absolutely amazing. And how did Babes in Toyland fit into that overall picture? Was that before or after, Angelica?
That was at the same time as volunteering. So Pat was the executive producer on Angelica's last album. And then that was like a byproduct of that for a couple of weeks.
You mentioned about the 90s obviously being a really good time for music, and obviously, you know, it's recently been a few anniversaries of some quite famous rock bands and indie bands and such like.
Too many.
Too many. And it was a good time for music. I think it's probably quite formative years for quite a lot of us as well. How aware were you in terms of the larger picture, in terms of Riot Girl, and how important did you feel at the time that it was important to get young women's voices in music?
I would probably say that when I was like a teenager, I was a bit oblivious to like any kind of political activism as such. I think I was quite unaware. So we were in a girl band, and obviously that brought pros and cons to our life in the band. Definitely other members of the band were way more like switched on than I was. I was a bit like kind of less aware than I am now. But it was, there were loads of girls and women in bands in the 90s, so it seemed like that was just it. You could do it. Do you know what I mean? You could see there's loads of people that you could see in like the Enemy or Kerrang or on whatever MTV. Loads of people playing, so it didn't seem like you could just say, "Oh look, there's someone on drums or guitar.
Yes,
I can do that." So there's so many positive female role models when I was younger, and I feel really lucky to have had that, because I don't think, certainly in the kind of music that I like, I don't think it exists in the same way. And there still aren't like as many women playing non-traditional instruments as there should be. Definitely, and the statistics you can go and find back that up, which is why I do the work that I do now. When I was younger, I think there was just so many women playing that it didn't seem like odd. Although, you know, we were still labelled, of course, as all girl band. There's a really funny photo of us outside a pub, and it's just on a chalkboard says all girl band. Like, there were lots of girls in bands in the 90s. In the press, we were all put together just because you were girls in a band, and you weren't necessarily like the same genre, but there was kind of like spreads on all girl bands or whatever.
Have you found that mindset has shifted somewhat, or do you feel like there is still a hangover from the days of which women in music are pigeonholed?
Well, you'd like to think it had moved on, wouldn't you? But I don't know if it has as much. There's still not enough women and non-binary people representation in the music industry. It's still dominated by men, and we still objectify women. The world has moved on since the 90s. But I don't know.
It was good that you had role models when you were growing up. Who was your idols? Who were your band sort of idols when you were growing up, would you say, that inspired you?
Apart from Guns N' Roses. That was my initial one. Guns N' Roses. Bands like Hole. I know Courtney Love is a controversial figure, but she definitely was an inspiration as a kind of strong woman who didn't take any nonsense from anyone. Like PJ Harvey, Kim Gordon in Sonic Youth, Bjork, all the Riot Girl bands, Kathleen Hanna, who's still going strong, Breeders, you know, members of the Pixies, so many bands. There's Huggy Bear, Bikini Kill, all those kind of bands. Like PJ Harvey was just an absolutely inspirational role model for being kind of out there, and so she's brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of those definitely inspired me as well, because I think Garbage as well, and in some respects I remember.
I'm quite a fan of, you know, 80s rock as well, I have to say.
Yeah.
But also I really loved or still do love Tari B, who was like a heavy metal rapper who was in like bands like My Ruin. She was my absolute hero. I loved her and still do now. She was fab, and she broke all the molds because she was a rapper as well in a metal band. You
mentioned Riot Girl before. Would you say the ethos of Riot Girl in terms of empowerment and voices of women in music. Would you say that's inspired your work now with young people?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's gone, and I feel like it's gone a full circle now. We've gone back to kind of that DIY Riot Girl ethos. And we do that at, like, in the Girls Can project that I work on at More Music is very, very, it's gone back to its Riot Girl roots.
Amazing.
I would say. And the kind of people that work, my colleagues that I work on it, we're all kind of coming from that place.
You've got a diverse skill set across multiple different instruments. You mentioned before about guitar and drums and such like. How does that influence your approach to your work with young people now and mentoring young musicians?
I can play lots of things not amazingly well, which is quite quite useful. It's quite useful being able to work with young people on, you know, I can't play any brass instruments, but being able to work to include any kind of instrument in a kind of band or ensemble setting. So, you know, if some people turn up and they want to play strings, that's great, and we can incorporate that into like a band. Just being able to pick something up and play it and not feel like you've got to be like amazing, like a virtuoso, is, I think, really informs my approach, because that can be a barrier, can't it, to
absolutely
not being able to, like, feel like you're not good enough or you'll never reach that kind of bar of being able to play or being able to play live. I do live my like life with the, you know, that famous either t-shirt or poster that is, here's a chord, here's another one, here's a third, now form a band.
Yeah,
that's my, like, that's where I'm coming from.
Amazing. Yeah. Do you find that really there's a chance now for the model to be changed? There are opportunities for additional opportunities within music education to try and shatter the kind of the roof of the traditional model, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think like kind of BTEC rock school courses are doing that, because you can follow that pathway and play, you know, a non-traditional instrument and write your own songs and kind of explore more vocational pathways, which I think is really important in music, because, I mean, it depends what pathway you want to follow and what you want to achieve. But if you're thinking about career progression routes, kind of that hands-on experience of being able to just, you know, learn a wide range of skills, learn how to do the sound. These are all things that kind of we did when we were kids, but not in an educational institution. We just cracked on and did it with the, like, you know, like with the support of people at the co-op. They were our mentors, but they weren't, you know, we weren't at college, but we learned how to put on a gig and how to set up a PA and all these things. If that's the pathway you want to follow, are really important skills, I think.
Like I say, you mentioned earlier on about being a cycle, it's coming back around. It almost feels like in many ways we're kind of leaving the 80s again and coming back into the 90s, and I think there'll almost be like a new generation coming through.
Yeah.
But then you'll be able to use the skills and your experience to be able to be at the forefront of that, and that must feel quite exciting.
I think it's really exciting that the co-op's been regenerated again for the new generation of bands that are coming through. I think we saw post-COVID, like our bands, the bands that we worked with for quite a long time, all dropped off because it was quite a long gap. Nothing was open. People grew up, got jobs, had families, all those kind of things. And so we've been working for the past 3 years. I've lost track of time.
Yeah, it is a bit.
To kind of support that creative space where young people can build their scene again, and it's definitely happening, and it's very exciting. So the fact it's coinciding with the co-op reopening, like the kind of bands are ready to go. I'm quite excited by the kids like building their own scene again, and just people just need, I think, like a creative space, a space to do what they do best.
What are you finding then young people are looking for when they come to stages and the More Media Collective? What do you find that drives them?
I think they're looking for people, like-minded people. They like the same type of music, and bandmates, like to find people to play with. and yeah, space to rehearse and write, and spaces to gig. And there aren't as many venues in the area as there used to be.
Yeah.
Like those small venues that are absolutely vital to growing the scene and people learning their craft and not feeling like they have to fill a big venue, because it's unrealistic when you're starting out. You need that you need that space and time and to grow and kind of hone your own sound. There are places that support and offer opportunities, but yeah, we need, we do miss that Yorkshire House size venue, those independent venues, grassroots venues that are being threatened by the bigger ones. I won't mention like
no, I know what you mean.
Manchester's a really good example of how the grassroots venues are fighting for their space.
Yeah, grassroots venues are sorely needed, and you mentioned the Yorkshire House, great venue for gigging in. I remember the old, what was the old Tollcross before it was the Tollcross?
Oh, the Farmer's Arms. That was fabulous. That was such, like, they were so welcoming of young people and bands, and you could rent out that back room. We had some legendary posters from gigs in the Farmer's Arms, and you drag your PA in.
That's right, through the side door.
Yeah. So yeah, spaces like that are absolutely like essential. There's loads of organisations and festivals that are supporting local grassroots music. So the music festival, great. They offer loads of opportunities for not just young bands, just like musicians in the area. And of course, more music.
Absolutely.
But we need the opportunities once we've kind of, that's a safe space, and then we need places to be signposting people out of or out to.
Mental health is a critical part of your work. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that's become more important? How do you address the mental health challenges of young people through the work that you do?
Ever since I first started doing kind of youth work and music, mental health has been an issue, because you're working with young people, and young people experience all sorts of things, just life really, which is the reason why I went and did my degree in youth work in the first place, because I encountered something at work. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. We are very lucky that in Lancaster and Morecambe, the network of agencies and the like that support young people and mental health is really strong, and the partnerships are really vital and brilliant. I think it's a really strong network of organisations that support young people's mental health. Young people that come to our projects tell us that music and that connection with other people that you get through music is really important to them, and it's a key factor. It's as important as the musical output, I think, for our work and the work that I do, as whether someone becomes the next whatever. Not really bothered about. We know that music provides young people with an outlet for emotion and creativity, and those things are really important. And those connections with other people, those social connections, are as important as the musical development, really. And in COVID, we didn't have that thing of that magic of playing in a room with other people. And I think a lot of my work, the importance of my work is that bringing people just together in a space to make music, and then it makes you feel better.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. In terms of the initiatives then at More Music, what have you seen has been the impact of the work that you've done through your mental health advocacy and your work with young people?
We've always, I keep saying this, but we've always been aware of the kind of multifaceted impact that the work that we do has. So it's not just about musical progression, it's about personal, social, political development as well. So in terms of the kind of impact that we have, you can see young people come to our, not just young people, come to a session and maybe form a band, make some friends, and we can have see people go from not talking, not being able to communicate with anyone, to suddenly having this really strong friendship network and growing into kind of their full self.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you see people change before your eyes. They'll come one week like that, and the next week they're totally expressing themselves and being creative with their clothes or their hair or that opened up a bit. That's what makes me feel that my work is worth doing.
Yeah, you're enabling them to become their true self.
It's just but it's a space. It's a space to become that people feel safe in.
So what advice would you give to young people just starting out who maybe are feeling overwhelmed about the idea of, playing music, getting into bands? What advice would you give to them?
I would say just do it. Try not to overthink anything. Just try and find some friends, or go to like a project, or find some people at school that are hanging out in the music department, and try and play something together. Play a cover, try and write your own stuff, but just try and do it.
Yes. Yeah. Pick up an instrument and play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not worry too much about a career in it, or trying to be the best, or what other people think. Yeah. Because no one will, you won't do anything if you've just sat in your room.
That's it.
Just get out and play.
You got to get in the pool to swim, to learn to swim. You got to pick up an instrument to learn to make the mistakes and crack on, and it is absolutely fine. How important is it for young people to experiment with different musical genres and instruments?
I think I have very eclectic music taste. I'm a big fan of like classical music, and I have played in like hip hop bands, and as well as punk bands, and also really like country music. I don't know. I think it's really good to be open-minded about different genres, because otherwise you can get quite stuck, can't you? And you always find, like, I'm a big fan of watching documentaries about people like musicians, and they might be like the best metal drummer, but actually they're from a jazz background, or so it just enriches, doesn't it, your creativity if you can experiment.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because Chris Joyce was also very much on multiple different genres of his music, and very similar to how you described the young people in more music, and your experience as well. It's very much get out, do it, play, and just crack on. Don't be worried, make the mistakes, and just do it.
I think just like taking opportunities, because there are loads of opportunities out there, and the people that I see kind of flourish the most are the people willing to take a bit of a risk, try something that is new or not in their comfort zone, and that's how you build your confidence and your kind of resilience.
In terms of that, then the rise of artificial intelligence, in terms of have you got a sense of that's impacting, or are young people starting to harness these technical and digital tools to help with their songwriting?
Well, I have not ventured into AI at all. I don't think, not knowingly anyway.
Yeah, sure.
So I would say that people are still just picking up guitars and drumsticks, and they want to play. They want to play stuff. I couldn't comment personally if people are using AI to write lyrics. I think it could potentially be useful if you were stuck with a blank page. I'm yet to go there. I'm still very much like, here's a guitar and some drumsticks.
Yeah, I would say that your young writers don't have anything to worry about in terms of lyric writing from artificial intelligence. I have tried a couple of times, and I ended up rewriting them anyway. So there's always going to be that creative element. It will never, I don't think, rob people. It might cut corners for some who want to cut corners, but I don't think it's going to take away from the creative force that is coming up with the ideas in the first place.
Yeah, it's that personal experience. I'm still, like, when I do songwriting workshops, getting people to cut up newspapers, like ransom notes.
Nice, yeah.
So I'm still there.
So that very much that punk approach then, yeah? Yeah. How have you become more active in political work as well, through the work that you've seen now, in terms of the impact that the last 14, 15 years has had on music and music education?
I'm definitely more political and politically aware than I was as a teenager. I think I was just living in that kind of, there's probably some neuroscience in it, but I wasn't particularly aware of consciously aware of my place in the world. Whereas I am, as I've got older, I think it's probably quite common. I can see how everything that we do, all our work is political in some way, and it's great to be able to use like the Girls Can project to talk about feminism, and you know, we use International Women's Day as a kind of starter for lyric writing and raising awareness,
consciousness.
And the lyrics that the group wrote at the last Girls Can weekend were brilliant. They were like writing like catchy pop songs about mansplaining and lots of stuff about.
I'm guilty. I'm told I'm guilty of that sometimes.
It was a brilliant pop song, but it was like really catchy. But the lyrics were so on the nose. It was hilarious.
Fab. Are these recordings available for people to listen to?
So the next Girls Can weekend, the summer Girls Can weekend, we're going to record. So and then hopefully release for the autumn. So they will be available. Yeah.
Nice, excellent. Look out for the links for that in due course. Many young people struggle with the fear of failure, and we touched on that already when trying something new. So how do you encourage students to sort of push past that fear and take more risks?
So one of our ethos of the work that we do in More Music is that it's a safe place to fail.
Love that.
Yeah, that's so it is. It's really fine. No one's being pushed to reach a bar or pass an exam or play a scale correctly. And we're very much on that like Freirean horizontal model where nothing is wrong or right, and if you want to play it like that, that's fine. If that works for you. And we learn like with our participants or the young people that come. So yeah, we would hope that the space that we provide is safe, and it is somewhere where it is safe to fail.
That's fantastic. And also would probably take away that competitiveness which can appear in so many different other areas of education life, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think some of the feedback that we've had about so we do gigs in our venue that we're very lucky to have, and the idea is that that's a safe place as well. You do your first gig, you can be headlining, you can kind of work your way up, and that it's a community and that is supportive of your peers. And we actively don't ever do like Battle of the Bands or anything like that, because it's not a competition being a musician, and there's enough other areas of competition in life and in the industry that we're not trying to encourage that. We're trying to like engender a community that supports each other. And you can definitely see it. And young people and parents and people that come to the gig feedback that it's a really nice and supportive environment. So I would hope that there's no competitiveness. Obviously, like you want people to be aspiring, and inspired by their peers, or like a band that's been coming for a while. That's a positive thing, being inspired and wanting to go, oh, yeah, I want to do that, but not that competitiveness I try to avoid.
How can young musicians develop leadership skills and teamwork skills, and how are they important for their future?
So I think by just being in a band or playing with other people, you've got to develop all those teamwork skills necessary for life. It's like a little microcosm, isn't it, of life being in a band, and how you've got to negotiate like 3 or 4 or 5 or other people's kind of quirks or behaviour, and invariably you might need a leader within that band. So that's just playing music with other people is a really good way of having to work in a team, because it just doesn't work, does it, if you're not working as a team. And then leadership skills, I think I feel like it's more confidence that is something that we try and build with young people, like having the confidence to do the lights, or I could I could host the gig, or I could go on stage. Kind of all that. Confidence leads, I suppose, to leadership. That's the area that we try and support the most.
And how would a young person, to other young people, how would they get involved with that work?
There's loads of opportunities in Lancaster and Morecambe. At More Music, we have like progression routes through our organisation where young people can get more involved if they want to. So we have like our young producers group, and they can take the lead on organising all the events that happen. So that develops leadership skills in itself. It's very youth-led, and it's kind of an open forum for young people to follow a path that they want to follow, And it's great to when you see people going like, right, I'm going to go and book all the bands, and I'm going to go and tell people what time they're on stage, or manage the stage, or I'm going to fix some mic stands off their own back. It's brilliant. And we have like youth councils, youth boards who lead our organisation, and hopefully more. You naturally see young people taking on leadership roles and sharing their skills. Again, it's that sharing of skills, like no one's an expert. So you'll see young people sharing their skills and teaching someone else. And then we have more formalised routes for that. So we have mentorships and traineeships where you can kind of do that and get paid as well. So.
Amazing. And when you say young person, for those who maybe don't know, what age range is that?
We work with, well, all ages, but our kind of youth programme is from 6 to 25. We try and hang on to people and get them working.
Yeah. Fab. Yeah. 25.
I mean, 30 is a young person now.
It is. I'm a young person, honest.
At heart, we all are.
We all are at heart. We're never going to lose that.
No.
What lasting piece of advice would you want to leave with young musicians who aspire to use their talent to make a positive impact on their communities?
Again, I'm just going to say, just do it. Get out there and do it.
Yeah.
Play every gig that you get offered or that you can. Work with all the people that want to work with you, and just do it.
Fantastic. What's next for Rachel Parsons? What's your next plan?
That's a very good question, Euan. I don't know if I can answer that. Contrary to saying like just go out and play it, I am trying to play more.
Amazing.
That's what I'm trying to do. Yes.
Yeah. Would you fancy playing more with your drums or your violin, or or your guitar? What are you hoping to play more of?
I've played more violin actually recently, but I should play more drums. So that's probably a longer term goal. Is that but yeah, just being a bit more creative myself. I'm practicing what I preach. So yeah, playing more.
Amazing. One question which I wasn't going to ask, but I thought I'd just throw in anyway. How do you ace being a mum and such a strong advocate for young people and especially women in music? What advice would you give to anyone in the same position?
I don't know if I am doing. I'd say it's been a challenge balancing being a mum and being, working. And like I say, I don't play as much as I used to, but it's brilliant having a daughter.
Yeah.
She's fabulous and she inspires me to do stuff. I think, I don't know, just like you can do things, take your child to work if you need to, take them to gigs. It's all a creative kind of environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not a great piece of advice.
No,
I don't know.
You're showing the next generation what it is to be a strong, empowered woman in the modern world as well. And I think that certainly cannot be underestimated, and how important that is for her to see that, who will then grow up to be likewise and say it is okay and it'll be absolutely fine. Rachel, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, it's been lovely.
You've been amazing, thank you. And if you would like any of the links that we've talked about in today's video or any other information, check out the links below, and don't forget to like this podcast, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Cheers, Rachel.
Thank you.